What is up, guys? J'espère que vous allez bien, que vous êtes en pleine forme. Bienvenue sur le podcast Conversation Awesome avec Karmakin. A place where we speak Franglish, say the word awesome a lot, mais surtout un endroit d'inspiration et d'éducation pour vous aider à optimiser votre santé globale from the inside out. Mon nom est Claudia, fondatrice de Karmakin, et ma mission avec ce podcast est de t'amener dans un monde de développement personnel, d'optimisation d'habitudes de vie et de découverte so you can unleash your potential and live the life you truly want and deserve. Merci d'être à l'écoute. You're awesome. What is up, beautiful souls? Welcome to this awesome conversation. Bienvenue sur le podcast. I got quite a treat for you today. J'ai une invitée super spéciale à vous présenter. Je m'assois virtuellement avec Milena aujourd'hui pour une conversation awesome en toute franchise, en toute vulnérabilité. Et ça m'a fait vraiment plaisir de la recevoir parce que Milena et moi, en fait, on a coaché le patinage artistique ensemble il y a de ça plusieurs années. C'était la chorégraphe qui venait nous aider à faire les solos de nos élèves. C'est ça pendant, comme je disais, plusieurs années. Puis, je l'ai toujours admirée par sa force de caractère, sa présence, son authenticité, sa personnalité très, très lumineuse. On riait souvent parce que quand on disait à nos élèves que Milena s'en venait faire les chorégraphies, ben les kids, ils avaient peur, là, parce que, oh my God, Mil was coming to the rink, puis ils savaient qu'ils devaient être sur leur best behavior, puis de l'écouter, puis it was such a big deal. Fait que c'est quelqu'un qui, grâce à tout ça, que j'ai toujours vraiment admiré. Puis, elle a fait un méga changement de carrière dans les dernières années qui a amené son lot de changements, d'ajustements, de péripéties au niveau de sa santé mentale, de réalisation, de work, comme j'aime beaucoup jaser sur le podcast parce que je trouve que c'est tellement important et pertinent de jaser de tout ça, puis de pas avoir peur d'en parler, puis de comprendre qu'on n'est pas toute seule à vivre toutes sortes d'affaires vraiment déstabilisantes, puis difficiles, puis challengeantes, surtout quand on fait des gros changements de vie comme ça. So, I'm super grateful that I had this conversation with her. La conversation est en anglais. C'est pour ça que je parle en Franglish depuis le début de l'intro. Mais Milena est comme moi, super bilingual. She does the Franglish comme elle aime dire. Fait que si jamais vous avez des questions ou du feedback ou des commentaires pour moi ou pour elle, vous pouvez le faire certainement en anglais ou en français ou en franglais. Mais bref, sans plus tarder, je vous laisse à la conversation awesome qu'on a eue aujourd'hui. Écoutez attentivement, soyez inspirés par son histoire et par the beautiful person that she is. All right, I'm super excited for today's guest. Milena, welcome to this awesome conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
Yeah, I love having inspiring women on the podcast that they can share about their story, the good, the bad, everything in between. And I know that we're going to have a great conversation for our listeners. It's going to be very inspiring. So again, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Our conversations are always interesting when they're not recorded. So I'm sure that this one will be just as interesting.
That's usually how it happens with like my friends. I'm like, we should record this. Like somebody else should be listening to this conversation we're having right now. So I actually love using my platforms for that exact reason. Just to share, you know, the day-to-day and struggles and the changes and the shenanigans of life so we can inspire other women to go through their journeys, whatever that looks like, with some tips and tools and just not feeling alone. So
yeah, you know, I think sharing is a really big part of it. I think that oftentimes we feel like we're on a singular journey and what we're going through, no one else has ever gone through, and we're really on our own. And it's by kind of sharing that we're able to connect stories together and build a sense of community, as well as, you know, we're embarking on our own health goals or mental health goals or personal goals, whatever they may be. So I think that's a really powerful thing.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to have you on, you know, like to give some context. We know each other from the skating world. We coach some skaters together as well. And when Milena was coming to the rink, it was always like, quote unquote, a big deal, right? Because like the skaters were so excited. They were a little scared because you worked hard and you just showed up at the rink in all of yourself, right? You're like the epiphany of like, you do you boo. And like with the haircut and the makeup and like the clothes and like your strong personality, which I always really admired. But for some people, it was a little bit maybe intimidating or a little scary for some skaters. And same on social media, right? Like you had this amazing brand, and we'll talk about like the huge career shift that you went through in the last couple of years. Yeah. And we were just talking about that before we hit record. Like that's what we show to the outside world, you know, and that's part of our brand. And it's, you know, parts of our personalities that we want to put forward. And it depends on what we do as a living, like a skating coach or like a coach or, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, like, who are you behind all these Instagram stories and behind that makeup and like those haircuts and that strong personality? Who is Milena under all of these layers?
That's something I'm still trying to figure out. Honestly, I think that it's a real life journey to go through kind of different eras of yourself. And I can kind of pinpoint different times when I was a competitive athlete that I really identified and I really fit that mold. And then I was at university, so I was really a student. I was fitting that mold. Then I became a coach. And that's something that I'm always going to be extremely passionate about, was coaching athletes, coaching skaters of all levels, doing choreography as well. So I really had a strong coaching choreography era, and I had a lot of goals during that time of how I wanted to show up at the rink and show up for people as well. And then the same thing with my career, transition, going into more of a business world, working in real estate the way I am currently, how I want to show up for my clients and what kind of a broker I want to be. But at the end of the day, you know, these are all different identities. These are all different sides of yourself that you step into, depending on where you are. So I think that the best answer to your question actually is that I'm still figuring that out, that at the end of the day, I'm someone who is very kind. I'm someone who is very generous, and I'm someone who wants to protect and stand up for others. So that would be like the core essence of who I am, and the way that I express that, or the way that I show up as being that in different facets, depends on what I'm doing and where I'm at, you know?
Absolutely. These are all like hats that we put on, right? Like sister Claudia, or like coach Claudia, or like athlete Claudia, you know? And like it's figuring out who are we under like all these hats or these roles or these masks even that we wear. That we wear sometimes.
For sure. And people always, you know, it's funny when you talk about showing up at the rink with the makeup and the hair and the outfits, and I'm pretty extravagant fashion wise. I have cool, fun, short hair. Now I'm a blonde, but I've been through every color of the rainbow, and the kids were really into that when I would show up at the rink with the purple hair or whatever. They'd be like, oh, it's so cool or whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's maybe a little bit also to mask that I'm shy inside. I'm shy and I'm nice. And I think that I didn't want that to be too illustrated out to people. I wanted to show up with a little bit of a carapace, a little bit of a little bit of veneer, so that, you know, people would either, you know, take me seriously or not think that I could be kind of walked over on, because it's a tough business, the coaching business, the skating business, the real estate business. There are sharks out there. So you want to show up looking as tough and put together as you can. And I did that in my own way, but at the end of the day, we're all, what is it? What is this saying? We're all born naked and the rest is drag. It's a really good RuPaul quote.
I like that.
Yeah. We're all born naked and the rest is drag.
Yeah, I like that. Do you still have that feeling that you need to have a bit of a carapace and not truly show those sides of you, like being more shy, like very nice? Or is that something that you work through, or that doesn't serve you that much anymore in your new career? Or?
It goes by dosages. Definitely at the end of the day, the most important thing when I'm showing up for a client, be it a skating client or be it a real estate client, I want to show up as the best version of myself as I can be. And so I want to show up with a certain level of compassion if that's what's needed, if the situation is tough, or I want to show up and I want to be like, look, this is how it's going to go, and, you know, really be more assertive. So I think that what's helped me a lot actually was my career as a skater. Has helped me a lot to develop those affinities and to be able to read people, to read through the lines, to pick up a vibe, you know, about what I'm showing up into on that day. And I continued kind of developing those abilities as a coach and as a choreographer. And these are the transferable skills that I've brought to my next era of my life.
Yeah. Do you agree that we all kind of leave the competitive athlete world a little broken? Was that the case for you?
God.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we all need therapy after we're done like competitive skating.
Oh, I mean, I'm in
sport,
therapy.
right?
I'm in like, I'm in super deep therapy. I mean, the way you tentatively approach that question, I'm like, I have that on a t-shirt. I'm like, broken, handle with caution. I think that also in the years that we skated as well, there's so much more awareness right now over how to speak to kids, how to speak to teens, how to do interventions as a coach. And a lot of this stuff wasn't present. Anyways, for me, it wasn't present dealing with situations that I dealt with as an athlete back in the day when I was as young as, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that does create a lot of trauma that does need to be unpacked later on in life.
What was one or two like beliefs or traumas or like stuff that you had to heal, or you're still maybe healing now, that came from skating?
I never think that I'm working hard enough. And I never think that I'm good enough. So anything that I do, it's like, I come to the end of my day and it's like, did I do enough? Did I make enough calls? Did I do enough work? Is my inbox empty? Like and now of course, being in the situation I am where I'm working in a hybrid model. Well, first of all, as a real estate broker, my schedule is what I make of it, right? Yeah. And my results are what comes out of that schedule as well. So if I can work 10 hours a day, I'm going to work 10 hours a day. But you know what? If I do those 10 hours, I should do them and feel good about that. Say, wow, I really put in a powerful day of work, but I don't feel that way. Mm. And that's wrong. That's something I have to address. Like, you know what? You worked from morning till night. You should at least feel satisfied with yourself. Yeah. Like I'm working hard enough and then I'm good enough. This is good enough, because in skating, as you know, and even coaching, it's do it again. Mm-hmm. It can always be a little bit faster, a little bit sharper, a little bit, a little bit better always. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are some modalities that you're using right now to help you navigate these wounds or that trauma? You mentioned therapy. Anything else? Or anything that you've learned in therapy that's been helping you?
Oh, big time. Absolutely. I'm in great therapy. I have so much good fortune to have a great team around me that helps me navigate on a bi-weekly basis, I would say, what I'm going through. And I generally am just trying to look at myself with more kindness. Mm-hmm. I've been told that, you have to speak to yourself like you're your own best friend. Mm-hmm. And it's like, think about the things that you say to yourself in your head. If you have negative self-talk, if you have negative comments, would you speak to a friend that way? Likely not. I know I would never speak to any of my friends that way. Mm-hmm. And so I try to apply that to myself. And I also try to seek the people around me that will be supportive and positive. I feel like I have an old athlete's mentality where it's like, I'm going to find the toughest coach there is, mm-hmm. and I'm going to be put through the ringer. And actually, that's not what I need. Maybe some people need that, and that's fine. And maybe at one point in my life, I did. Mm-hmm. Right now, I need someone strong, encouraging, and positive. And these are the people that I have around me for my work now.
Did you have to heal some relationships or let go some friendships or change maybe your soul tribe or the people you hang out with the most? Like, did you have to do a lot
friend-wise, I'm pretty lucky. Friend-wise, I'm pretty cut and dry in my friendships, that I love being surrounded by people who are positive, who are on their own life journey, who are, generous, who I can be generous to as well with, time, attention, everything else. So in terms of friends, I've been very, very lucky to have a close circle of friends and friends that I've made along the way over the course of the years that have been amazing. Mm-hmm. In terms of my professional career, these things have had to be adjusted over time. Like I left certain places, I've made new alliances, mm-hmm. I've gone to kind of seek out the best and most positive environment for myself to thrive in.
Yeah. It's so important to surround ourselves with people who inspire us or hold space for us when we're not doing so good, or help us see a different perspective and like not being judgmental about what we're going through. So
yes, big time. The judgment is a big thing. And coming from a sport that was a subjective sport as well, I'm sure that you've been through it as well. And it affects your own judgment, and you have to kind of undo all of those bad habits, you would say. Right. Mm-hmm. To be making those judgments either about yourself or about others. Even I know that I've had to work on that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's most of the healing journey is unlearning
Yes.
everything that you learn in your childhood or like teenage years, or like these experiences or these sports that were so meaningful to us, unlearning the way we're programmed to relearn new beliefs, new behaviors, new habits to support our goals and like to make us feel a little better about ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, you just need to be feeling good. Like just feeling good is a huge reward at the end of the day, because when you don't feel good, it takes up a lot of mental headspace. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like, your life is only the present moment. The past doesn't belong to you anymore. The future hasn't happened yet. In the present moment, you need to be feeling good about yourself and about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. What do you do on a day-to-day basis to help you feel good?
So many things. So I've gotten into meditating in the mornings, like very early. So I do some really cool, like really weird tonal music. It kind of sounds like whale calls, but it's like one string, and you just like listen to that for a while. So I do at least like a 10-15 minutes of that in the mornings, sitting up on a chair. Sometimes I burn the Palo Santo. Sometimes I feel like I don't need it, but I just really focus myself on being grateful for a new day, like starting with the gratitude for the new day, gratitude for all the opportunities I have coming towards me, saying some affirmations, just really getting immediately into that positive headspace. Mm-hmm. Because again, I have one of those jobs where I could always be working. So as soon as my feet hit the floor, my first instinct is I want to grab my cell phone. I want to look at all my emails. I want to look and see if there's anything has happened overnight somehow in real estate that I have missed. Yeah. And it's not a good way to start the day. So now I just try to step into my meditation zone for 10 to 15 minutes. That's something that I've found extremely helpful that I've added in the past couple of weeks. I also journal a little bit after that meditation time, just to kind of close up if some topics have opened up in my brain or whatever, just kind of get that out on paper. And then from there, it's all about like physical activity. It sounds so silly, but being in Montreal in the winter, it does get very cold, but I try to go outside, especially a day where I'm working from home and I'm just so zoned in on what I'm doing. It's like, okay, go outside for a couple minutes, even just go walk around the block. And being able to go to the gym as well is a huge gift. So I took a break from the gym for a while. I was going through a little bit of a low phase. I was feeling a bit lethargic, and I got myself back into the gym, and it makes an enormous difference to take that time from yourself, take that time away from the cell phone, and just really enjoy it. So now I say, I get to go to the gym today. I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have to do anything really, right? I decide, but I get to go to the gym today, and I get to feel good in my body. And that's something that's made a huge difference as well.
I love it. Do you have like a night routine to kind of close up your day, or is that something you're working on, or?
The evenings are more challenging, since it's always so unpredictable with, visits, with different, emails are coming in. A lot of my clients work during the day. So in the evening is when they're getting back to me with their comments, their feedback, their visit requests, or et cetera. So evenings are a bit more challenging. What I'm really trying to do is getting off my phone earlier and earlier. And I'm a big believer in an early bedtime. Like, I'm in bed. I find no good life choices happen after 9 p.m. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not going to be having a wheatgrass shot, right? You're opening up a bottle of wine. I don't have to be doing that. Yeah. I don't need that, right? On a Wednesday. No. So I'm going to be going into bed. I'm putting my cell phone away. I'm listening to some tonal music again to fall asleep, or I'm listening to some kind of a podcast. I try to make time for that, either as I'm going into sleep time, or if I'm driving, because I do spend a lot of time in the car. And I found it's the best way to maximize my car time has been to not use it as a wasted transport space, but use it as a productive learning space.
I love that. What kind of podcast do you listen to that helps you?
I love the Jordan Harbinger show. I just find there's really interesting guests on such a variety of topics. And it's always something that I maybe haven't thought about before. They talk about different things that are happening in the world, or people that have these amazing careers. And it's great because I feel like it's entertains me big time, but it also provides such high value. So that's a podcast that I often turn to.
Yeah, I love podcasts too. Like, I listen to them on my walks, at the gym sometimes, if I'm not craving to listen to like some music and stuff, driving. It's a good way to feed your mind of positive things. Yes. Because like a lot easier for people to get around the fact that like, oh, I go to the gym to train my muscles for my physical body. Like I do like workouts, but I always explain like for your mental health, it's kind of the same thing. You have to do stuff, habits, behaviors, choices on a weekly basis to do those mindset workouts. Because it's one thing to say, I want to be more positive. I want to work on my self-esteem. I want to heal some wounds. I want to go on my healing journey, whatever that is. But if you don't do anything, it's just going to remain the same.
Yeah.
Right. So listening to podcasts, having your morning meditation, journaling, using affirmations, those are like the exercises for the mindset workouts, just like you would do squats and bent over rows and chin ups and bench press for your physical body. So
no, your brain is a muscle. Yeah. Your brain is a muscle. Absolutely. And you need to be able to start working on training it in the right direction. It's something that I never thought about for many years. And as I was barreling through my 30s, I started to kind of feel a little bit less great about myself and a little bit less great about my choices, and went down a bit of a darker road there. And so getting back on track has meant, using your brain as a muscle and getting in those positive mindset activities regularly.
Mm-hmm. Was that lacking for you as a skater back in the day when you were like,
It didn't exist really back in the day. Like I worked with, like a sports psychologist here and there, but it wasn't something that was part of a usual, like a regular training regimen.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something I think that is starting, just from what I've seen at the different skating schools that I'm still involved with, it's starting to become absolutely part of the training, just like your on ice time, your off ice time, your ballet. It's really being incorporated. And I hope it's going to produce a generation of much better adjusted young adults.
Yes. Who will need less therapy.
Yes.
But yeah, like I stopped skating when I was 18. And then when I was 29, I did like a comeback. So I retrained for 6 months, bought myself new skates, had my dress, made myself a solo, and did 2 competitions. And because I have like an ongoing on and off hip injury, I couldn't skate as much. I couldn't train as much. And I remember I put so much time into my mental prep, and I skated, I want to say like max 4 hours a week, which is nothing compared to when I was 16, 17, 18, right?
Yeah.
And back in the day, it was like 90% training and off ice and 10% for everything else, the nutrition, the mindset, the recovery. And then when I did my comeback, because I knew better, obviously, and like my intentions and my reasons for competing were so different than like 10 years before that, the training part was like maybe 20% and 80% was all about feeling good in my body and working on my self-esteem and like listening to my music and like seeing my soul and just working on my self-confidence. And the difference was like insane. Like I was doing jumps better than when I was 18, just because of that confidence and that mental prep.
Yeah.
So I can't stress this enough. Like regardless if you're an athlete or not right now, like just even for your career goals, like just working on that mental toughness and that mindset, that positive, thoughts and all of that. It's so key. Like it makes such a big difference.
It's super key. And it's super key in an industry that I'm in right now, like being in real estate, which is incredibly competitive. It's ever evolving. It's ever changing. You never want to be playing catch up. You always want to feel like you're ahead of the curve. You want to be able to provide the latest, best thing to your clients. You want to be able to stand out from the crowd as well, which is very important because, again, there's so much competition that the mindset is incredibly key if you want to not just survive in the business, but thrive in the business as well.
Let's talk about that career change, and that transition from being all in, coaching and, doing the solos for everybody and just spending so much time at the rink. And then now, being in real estate, which, yes, like you said, there's some that's a hard word to say, transferable skills.
Yeah, you got
it. What were the first signs or like downloads or maybe intuition hits that like, maybe I need a change, or maybe I don't really want to stay this involved in skating for the rest of my life? Like, what were the first hints, that you crave that change?
It's hard because skating has always been the passion of my life and the love of my life, really. And I can still say, like, to this day, I'm so interested in skating. Like they live stream the competitions. Like I just watched novice nationals. You know what I mean? Like I watch everything and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I just find it so interesting. And it's been like that for me since I started skating. When I started skating, my mom had immigrant parents. And when she was young, they didn't speak the language. They were still getting acclimated to being in Canada. My mom didn't have so many activities. So when my mom had my sister and I, she was like, you guys are going to do everything. And she put us in every possible sport activity, music, all the rest of it. And for me, it's like the moment I got on those skates, it was like, this is different than anything. Like, this is it for me. Like, it was clear. It was like, I quit everything that's not this,
I just got goosebumps.
I was all in. And I felt like when my skating career kind of unceremoniously ended, when I was like 21, it really surprised me. And although I was in school and although there was a plan B, it wasn't a real plan B. Like I still had so much I thought to give to skating, which is why I kind of fell into coaching a little bit by accident. Like I was able to be at the rink and I felt like I was able to give back. And I really like feeling useful for people. So I really enjoyed being able to be the person who could come in and give that magic touch. Like, I'm going to help you be better and we're going to work on this and be that driving force. And I was that driving force for many, many years. I just found that I felt a little bit stuck at the rink at a certain point. Like I was a very young coach. Like I was still in university when I started coaching. I was like 21, 22. After kind of so many years, I felt a bit stuck. I felt like I was spending a lot of time in the car. I felt like I was also getting frustrated by things that were out of my control. Like if I had like a really good skater that quit skating, it would absolutely kill me inside, even though it's like, oh, you don't want to skate anymore. That's okay. You're passing on the next phase of your life. Like it would kill me. Ça venait me chercher, as they say. And I didn't want my job to affect me in that way. Like I wanted to find something that I could have a little bit more distance with. Right. Be very involved because I'm a very involved person. Say I'm all in with anything that I do, but something that was maybe a little bit less emotional, right? Because the choreography aspect, you're literally like, I'm creating this for you, So it is a bit draining, and looking down the line of, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to make it? Am I going to be able to keep up this pace of work, this quality of work, and this intensity for the rest of my life, question mark. So I think that I just had like a little bit of that kind of a feeling. And also the feeling of not a lot of my friends still have that kind of a job. A lot of my friends coached at a very high level. But I felt like people were kind of moving on with their lives and that I wasn't. And it's funny how when I made the decision to step away and to step into real estate, which was a huge interest of mine already for many, many years and always intrigued me. And I always thought, I wonder if I could be good enough, to be a real estate broker. A lot of my old traumas started to come to the surface. It's like as I wasn't at the rink every day, kind of battling it out, it started kind of coming up like, oh, you went through this in the past. So I really see my time as a coach and a choreographer as being there for other people and giving so much to other people, but at the same time, it was healing a little bit of a part of me as well. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What do you miss the most about being so involved in skating?
I miss everything about it. To be very honest, I miss everything about it. I still do some choreography. So what's really, really great about the job I currently have is that I have the flexibility to say, Tuesday from 11 till 1, I can be at the rink, So and it's turned it into I get to go to the rink. Yeah. And it's always fun and it's always exhilarating and it's always the experience I'm looking for because I'm not doing it for 10 hours a day. I'm doing it for 2 hours a week. Yeah. For example, so that really makes a huge, huge difference.
What was the hardest part about the transition? You mentioned that some moods came up, you had to go through some healing. You were in your 30s, navigating other mental health stuff. Like what was the hardest challenge or the hardest thing you had to overcome to make that transition?
Well, by the time that I actually, it's funny because it all happened really with the pandemic. So it almost gave me the opportunity when I decided to get my real estate license, which is the first step into changing. It was winter 2019. I registered for the course. My course was starting, I believe, in April. And then the pandemic on March 13th, everything shut down. And so I was like, well, all the rings are closed. I have no work for the foreseeable future. I'm going to take this opportunity. My classes were all virtual online anyway. I switched from the hybrid program to the full-time program and just took the opportunity to kind of blast through all of those classes and get my license done. Mm-hmm. So that's what the process was like in like a very practical, logistical standpoint. But mentally, by the time that pandemic happened, I was really burnt out. It was choreography season. I was exhausted. It really felt good to not to have to go to the rink. Mm. And it just shows I think I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. Yeah. And I should have, like, if I look back, like if I would have done something differently, I would have organized my time differently in a kinder way to myself, because I love being so pleasing, which is something, again, you learn from skating, is absolutely, mm-hmm. yes, I can do it. Absolutely. Yes, mm-hmm. I can do it. I'm going to be so pleasing to everybody else. And I ended up just being, I think, a bit miserable because I was just always in the car, always running around from one place to the next, never feeling like I had enough time, wanting to give more quality time to people and not having it. So the reset really happened nicely because I was ready for it in that time, mm-hmm. because I was just abut, you know?
Yeah. What are some other symptoms that you felt that made you realize that you were burnt out? Because I feel like a lot of women, like they're just on like survival mode until like something happens, an actual burnout, a disease, a sickness, illness, and like, oh shit, like I've been feeling this way. I've had signs for like 6 months, but I didn't really listen to my body or like what I was feeling. So anything else that you felt that were like little red flags that maybe you were on your way to like a burnout?
Just feeling very depressed, feeling very lethargic. That's when I quit the gym also, was in 2019. Feeling very stressed, feeling hopeless, feeling anxious. Like it was just all these little red flags that were kind of pointing that I was not going in the right direction. And then when everything shut down for the pandemic, I mean, I spent 3 weeks sleeping. I just didn't, everyone's like, what are we doing with our time? And I was like, I would just sleep. I would sleep the day away. I would sleep the night away. I would go for my walks around the neighborhood and go right back to bed. And it was like, oh girl, you must have been tired. Mm-hmm. And I never, we know now how important rest and recovery is in all the aspects of our life, be it our training life, be it our work life. Mm-hmm. But it's something that I never made the space for ever. And I'm really working on that very, very hard now, is to make the space for rest and make the space to wind things down.
Yeah. And it's hard when you always have to believe that you're not doing enough. Like I went through this myself.
Did you?
Like, okay. Yeah. I was like, and that's why I added the fourth pillar of my coaching, recovery, is the last one that came in, because I was like, okay, like I'm overtraining. J'ai frôlé le burnout like a couple times. And for me, I had to literally leave the country to be able to rest. I remember it was the end of 2018. And like, I woke up in the morning. I was like, wow, like I physically cannot get out of bed this morning. Like I'm this depressed and this burnt out. Like how did I let myself get to this place as a holistic health coach? And I booked a ticket for the beach the next day. I left for Cuba. I didn't tell anybody. I went there for 5 days. And I got to the beach and I was like, oh, I can breathe. And I slept for 5 days, a bit like you. And I was like, wow, like I didn't really realize that I had been pushing myself and ignoring signs and just
why do you think
yes, you know?
Why do you think that we do that to ourselves? Do you think, because I mean, you and I have a lot of parallel lines, right?
Absolutely.
Being, athletes, being into fitness, being into, I think, mindfulness, being open to, spirituality. Do you think that this is something that a lot of people go through, or that we're hardwired to it for certain reasons? Like, why do you think that this happens?
I think it comes from the way we're programmed through skating, for sure. Like anybody who's done like a competitive sport from a very young age, we're just wired that way. That like you have to work hard, and like, if you miss something, you got to redo it. And like, it just never ends. So for me, it was like, if I do more, I'm going to get more results. Same within my business as an entrepreneur. there's always something to do, right?
There's always something to do.
So resting, stepping away, taking time for yourself. For me, I saw this as weak, as not being strong, as wasting my time, as being lazy. But no, I identify as like a strong athlete who works hard and who's always pushing and who's strong. So I think it comes from our beliefs that are, you know, put into us from skating, parents, teachers, society even. And that's stuff that we need to unlearn, like what we talked about.
No, absolutely. And I think that, I mean, on social media too, like what we're being exposed to as well is never people resting. It's never people in that inactive, mindful state. It's people who are, here are my achievements. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. This is what I have. And so I think it puts you in a hamster wheel of feeling like you always need to be doing and you always need to be achieving. And if you're not, well, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's very sad, because I think that obviously we know social media is a highlight reel of all the top points in our lives, and is a really terrible tool for comparison. And it's a really great tool if you want to feel terrible about yourself. You know, every time you open your phone, it's the best tool there is. You want to feel like crap, open up Instagram.
Yeah. And I had to learn how to be more intentional about the people I was following, right? And the content I was consuming. I think I follow like 70 accounts on Instagram. Like I just kept like my accounts that I follow the list is very short.
Wow.
Exactly for those reasons. And surrounding myself with ambitious women who allow themselves to be in the flow, to be in the rest, to be in their feminine energy, and studying like the masculine and the feminine energy, which allowed me to lean into the feminine energy, which is more of like the chaos, the emotions, the flow, the rest, the receiving. The masculine is more like the giving, the doing, the achieving, and all that. And the more I lean into it slowly but surely, the more I realize that, holy shit, like it's bringing a lot of benefits to my life. And I can have a successful business even if I'm resting sometimes. And I can be even more creative when I'm in that flow. So that was a process for me. And it's still a journey. Like I still have that voice sometimes that tells me like, you should do more, you know, you should be working right now. But I think we're definitely not alone feeling that way for sure.
No, very powerful. I really like how you spoke about the balance.
Yeah, because they serve us both, you know, like you're in a business, like you need to be doing and achieving and have those deadlines and that schedule. But if you're in a wounded masculine because you never think you're doing enough, then that's when we get burnt out. Yeah. Right. So it's allowing that space for that divine feminine to show up and to allow that rest. So I'm glad you're working on that as well right now.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
I think we're seeing it a little more on social media as well. It always, you know, depends who you're following. But I'm seeing more and more women, especially speaking about that, you know, like the hustle and the grind and the we'll sleep when we're dead kind of thing.
So glamorized. It's so glamorized. And honestly, it's such crap.
Yeah.
It's such crap. Yeah.
More and more women are speaking about like, no, there's another way to be more fulfilled than to go back to your point, like just to feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
With that rest and that flow. So, but it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to unlearn for sure.
Yeah. Big time.
What else are you working on right now in terms of like mental health? Like you mentioned social media, comparison, you know, that not doing enough. Is there anything else that you're struggling with or working on right now? It's
an ongoing journey for me, honestly. I can say that
anybody, right?
For anybody. I had my burnout or whatever, my big mental health crisis in December 2019. And from there, I decided to kind of change my life around and put things back together. Since then, it's been therapy. It's been nature therapy. It's been, you know, meditations, affirmations, journaling, as I've discussed. Trying to do time blocking as well. If you talk to anybody in real estate, it's all about time blocking. You have to time block your schedule with your calls and blah, blah. Yeah. But you also need to time block your rest. And actually what is suggested is that you time block your rest first. You plan your vacations in the year first. And then from there, everything else fits into a schedule. Because if you don't do that first, very difficult once you're in the swing of the action to be doing that. So that's something I really have to work on, is saying, this is as important as putting my block of calling my prospective clients or doing my follow-ups or doing my paperwork or doing whatever it is else. This is as important as doing that. So that's really what I'm working on right now. As well as just really trying, I said, to reprogram my brain into, yes, you are doing enough. Yeah. Yes, you are good enough. Yes, you do deserve it when good things happen to you. I think I've been running for so long. I feel like I've been fighting for so long to get what I want, or to get ahead, or to get that success, that I want to be flowing more than I want to be fighting.
I like that. What does success mean to you today?
I think that boiled down to its most simple form, success will be to feel happy in the moment and to be grateful for everything that I have. That's success to me. Like, I can't associate it. Like, it's always like, I want to serve others. I want to be useful to others. I love being that person who can come in like that magical choreographer who's going to ride in on her Fiat and be like, today you're a firebird. Sometimes it's that energy, or sometimes it's the energy of showing up to see a couple that's in the middle of a really acrimonious divorce and being the person who can communicate to everyone, to find common ground, to mediate, to get a property sold. That's a huge success as well. But in its simplest forms, it's gratitude for everything that I have and feeling hopeful for the future. That's success.
And are you successful right now? Per your definition?
Almost.
What do you feel is missing for you to be 100% yes?
My positive, the bad voice sneaks in a little bit here and there still. So the good voice is really taking over. I'm really working very hard on this right now, but to really feel it, I'm going to need to be in that positive mindset. Really, I'm going to say 90% of the time, because there's a little 10% there that you just can't expect. You can't expect to be 100, but you do want it to be more than less.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the biggest lesson that real estate has taught you since you started?
Oh my God, there are so many. This could be a whole separate podcast, because this industry is so interesting. It's as much as it's what I thought it was going to be. As much as it's different, it's so similar to skating. I call it skating with houses, because it's very similar in the terms of project management, managing clients' expectations, delivering deliverables on time, being organized, being a good communicator. Like, it's all of those things, which are such a parallel line with skating. Yeah. What was the question again? I went on a tangent.
The biggest lesson.
Okay. The biggest lesson. Oh my God, it's me. So, okay.
You can say more than one if that's too hard.
Oh my God. I'm trying to look around me, because I have all these cues around me okay. So I have, because I'm so lucky and everything works out for me. This is my positive mindset frame. And then I also have just over here. So I have, how good do you think you are? How good do people think you are? Belief is reality. Perception is reality. So show up as the good person that you are. Show up confident with what you have to say. Be honest. Be straightforward with people. People don't want to be sold anymore. I am not a salesperson. I'm a real estate advisor. I want to be able to come in and look at your situation and say, this is what you should do. This is what it's going to look like money-wise. What option do you prefer? How do you want to move forwards? This is how I want to show up. So that, for me, that's real estate. That's the biggest lesson of real estate. Yeah. Show up good like you are, honest as you are, and people will appreciate that 1,000,000%.
Did you ever have to go through the whole, like, oh, what are people going to say about me, or what would people think of me? Because again, going back to how I met you, like, oh, this flamboyante, extravagant, amazing person just showing up and like with so much confidence, like she dares, dressing up this way and just being herself. From an outside perspective, you can think that like, oh my gosh, she must be so confident and not give a shit about what people think of her. But was that always the case? Is that the case? Is that something you're still working through in the real estate business?
Oh, funny. I had this conversation with someone at the office today. I don't think I dressed that crazy. It's the second person. There was a conversation at the office about this today. And I'm like, that out? Like, am I that out there? I don't think I'm that out there. I just think I'm a little bit colorful sometimes. But I think it's the whole persona, right? It's the energy, it's the loudness, it's the whole package. Listen, I take so much pleasure in looking the way I want to look and showing up the way I want to show up, that it's not something that bothers me. It surprises me when someone says, "Oh my God, the way you show up and you're so extravagant and you're, wearing head to toe pink or whatever." It surprises me that's so different. And then secondly, I started doing that a lot more when I was doing coaching and choreography for athletes, because I felt that, especially let's say I was showing up with an athlete that I'd never met before, and making a choreography for someone is very intimate. It's very personal. You're showing up and it's like, this is how you're going to appear on the ice. This is how is it that you want to feel? Okay, maybe we're skating a character piece. What are some similar lines that you can draw between yourself and between this character? So you really literally, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. I've been hired to do this by your coach or your parent or whoever else." Or maybe you saw your friend had a program done by me and you wanted that experience as well, but we don't know each other. To show up and to get into that nitty gritty, there could be a lot of barriers you have to break through, right? To get a kid or a teenager, especially, to open up or to be expressive or to even communicate with you with how they're feeling is a huge challenge. So my strategy was showing up loud and proud, totally authentic, totally myself, so that the kid would kind of look at me and say, if she can be like that, which is out there, I can be a little bit more out there. I can take a bit more space, or I can express myself more, or I can show up more, or I can be more out there myself, because I'll never be as wacko as she is, because she's wearing head to toe orange and singing a song, running around the arena. That means I can maybe smile a bit more today. And that means I can tell her, what I like and what I don't like. So it was kind of my way of empowering others, was to give myself permission to be completely and totally 100% myself.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a role model, almost like a permission as well.
Yes,
that's
it's a permission.
That's a word that comes
it's
to
a
mind.
Permission. It's absolutely a permission. And if I can allow myself to be here, you can allow yourself to be anywhere that you need to be. And also that's a safe space with me. That when I'm there, you can be exactly as you need to be, and you're not going to get any pushback, because I can see that authenticity, and I want you to nurture that authenticity as well.
Yeah. And this sport being so judgmental, right? So just having the permission to show up as the whole you is so key, especially like you said, for teenagers. So I love
especially
that.
For teenagers. Yeah. Big challenging time in life, and subjective sport that is, judged down to the last, millimeter. I think it's really important that authenticity shines through. And I think it's a great lesson also for after skating, right? Once you're done skating, you'll keep those life lessons with you.
Absolutely. I'm curious about your creativity, because that's something that was put forward so much, doing solos for everybody. And how do you fulfill that side of you in real estate, that creative side of you?
That's a super good question, Claudia. Real estate is very creative. Real estate is very, very creative. As much as it is, facts, figures, stats, as much as it's always about the story. Yep. So whenever I'm making a program, it's telling a story. It's telling a story of a character or of an athlete or of a music. In real estate, it's like, what's the story of this house? How are we going to get people to connect with how it's going to feel like living here? What is it, what does it mean to be part of this community? How, just the way, even though it sounds so silly, but the way a listing is put together, what is the energy that's coming off of this place? And I think that I can tap into that with humans, and I can tap into that with properties as well, because it is something that is, you can feel it, like it's intangible, but you can totally feel it. So, I definitely, use my social media for real estate. That's very creative. The way I put my listings together is very creative. The way I do my videos is very creative. Even the way that I show what my work is to my clients is very creative. I still feel like I'm in a quite creative domain, honestly. But for sure, I enjoy still being on the ice every now and again to kind of get the whole, get it physically out,
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting because obviously me not knowing anything really about real estate, I wouldn't have pictured it to be creative in those ways, but yeah,
no,
I can
for
see
sure.
how
Like
you
it's
fulfill
very
it that way.
like creative and strategic at the same time. It's like, okay, this property is going for sale. How are we going to price it? When is it going on the market? What kind of pictures are we going to use? What is the message I am, okay, this is the kind of property I'm selling. Who is buying this property? Okay, so I'm going to make all of my ads and all of my posts and all of my texts to really hone in on these specific types of people, which is, this is who's going to buy this house.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm going to get them to buy this house.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's just, it's all recycling, right? It's creativity in a different way, in a different space.
Mm-hmm. Do you, and maybe you don't have the answer to that question right now, but do you see yourself staying in that real estate world for very long? Yeah.
I love it.
Good.
I love it. It's challenging. I'm still getting used to it. I'm actually just next week celebrating my 2-year anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you. I made it. Not easy, but I really do love it. And I really, really love the people. I was nervous about, how skating is such a family. You have your community.
Everybody.
Everybody. Like there's kind of a safety blanket there. And I was really nervous about what kinds of people am I going to meet? What kind of colleagues am I going to have? What kind of collaborators am I going to have? And I have met some wonderful, wonderful people and even clients. I was nervous about the clients, right? Because in skating, it's a certain type of client. You're used to a certain, in real estate, I'm like, I'm going to be working with the general public. What kind of people will come out of the woodwork to work with me? And I have made some unbelievable connections with people that I otherwise would not have met.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of positive there in terms of the people, and the way you surround yourself, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. If somebody's listening right now and they feel that they're on the verge of a transition in their life, there might be some resistance, there might be some shit coming up that they might have to look at. Maybe there's some fears, to jump into a new career. What would be your advice for these people?
I had all those fears. And I had all of these, thoughts bubbling up. It's too late. Like I'm 37 years old right now. I'm like, it's too late to do this. And just try not to think of life as a series of timed events. Life is a journey that is continuously unfolding, and we're continuously learning and adapting on that journey. And that's something that gave me a lot of comfort as I was navigating this. Is I was thinking, oh my God, you're changing careers. Your friends are all, again, the comparison game. Your friends have all been in these careers for so many years now. They're established. You're established. Everybody knows you in choreography. You have a thriving business. And I decided to do it to challenge myself. And I just thought life is a journey. And you know what? If this doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm just going to do something else. And then I'm going to do something else. And maybe I'm going to do something else after that. I tend to always, maybe someone else has this problem as well, to see things in such permanence. This is what I am. This is what I do. This is how things are. But it's continuously change. Everything is continuously changing all the time.
Yeah.
And so just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Yeah. I always say that you're always one decision away from a completely different life.
100%.
Like if today the decision is to quit coaching and go in real estate, perfect. And if in 1 month or 1 year or 10 years, you want to make a different decision, you can.
Yeah.
Easier for me because I've always lived that nomad life and just picking up and leaving. And
you're really good with that. You're good with going with that flow. And I feel like you see that journey as well. This is something that you understood. It's something that I've had to learn because I really didn't see life that way at first.
And I didn't see it until I left for my first big trip in Australia when I was 23. But, I don't have a house. I don't have a husband. I don't have kids. So it might be a little easier logistically for me. But even me, when I have resistance or fears, or like, oh, should I move to this country or should I launch a business? Or I always repeat that to myself, like, okay, the decisions today are that. And then I can always make a new decision in a day or a week or 10 years. So that brings a bit of comfort and reassurance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Anything else that comes to mind or from the heart that you want to share before we wrap this up and I ask you my final question?
Oh my gosh. I just feel very grateful that you thought of me for this conversation today, because it was really thought provoking and really brought up a lot of a lot of interesting tidbits there that I'll be looking forward to listening back on and reflecting on as well as I continue my journey. So just thank you so much for thinking of me, for having me on here for this awesome conversation.
Of course. My pleasure. Thank you for sharing. Where can we follow you if anybody's interested in working with you, if they want to sell their house or get a new house or just follow your awesomeness?
Yeah, or just look at my head to toe orange outfits.
Yeah.
And, on Instagram, you can find me at Gumby Girl, GUMBIGURL. And on Facebook, add me as a Facebook friend. My name is Milena Todaro, and I'd be happy to be your friend.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes.
Cool.
My last question for you today, you actually mentioned one before in the conversation, but what's your favorite quote and why?
Oh, I'm so big on quotes.
Me too. That's why I always ask this question at the end of every episode, because I love quotes.
Okay, there's the one I said earlier from RuPaul is like a classic favorite. Like, we're all born naked and the rest is drag, but that's like classic favorite. The best one, and the one that I use very often, I've repeated often, and I've sent to friends and I talk about with friends, is from Dr. Maya Angelou. And it's, people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel.
I feel that's important to you because that's part of your mission, right? Like with skaters or with clients
Yes. And especially when you're, dealing with skaters who have accomplished certain things in their career, and maybe they didn't get an Olympic gold medal, for example, right? But people will forget that. People will forget who won that medal that day, or who won the provincials, or who won Canadians. Mm-hmm. But my gosh, they'll never forget when you went out and you skated that solo. You know what I mean? Like they'll never forget it. And I remember those moments. And I know other people remember those moments, and that's what's really, really powerful. And I think that it's something that brings a lot of comfort as well. So I love, love, love that quote.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And thank you again for this conversation. It's been amazing.
Thank you. You're the best.
J'espère que cette conversation awesome t'a inspiré. Et d'ailleurs, I would love to hear back from you. Rejoins Karmakin sur les réseaux sociaux and tag me in a post pour partager ce que tu retiens de cet épisode. Je serais vraiment grateful aussi si tu pouvais me laisser un rating and review pour le podcast. Ça me permet d'avoir un impact positif sur plus de gens comme toi. Merci beaucoup d'avoir été à l'écoute, and until next time, je te souhaite une journée awesome.